Once again, we are back in action. Jeffrey Dubroff, Garrett Schwartz with you. It is a lovely Monday night. You're listening to In the Trenches on KXC.org, 1560 AM, or on the TuneIn radio app. Garrett, it's nice to be back.
Nice to be back. Nice to have a week of college football under our belts. And, yeah, only a few days away from the bigger football league.
I know. Thursday night football, Chiefs, Patriots. Tom Brady going to raise his 5th banner. It's going to be a good day.
Going to be a good day, but let's certainly backtrack and let's talk some college football, because I don't know about you, but I was scrolling through my Twitter feed after USC's win against Western Michigan. I was scrolling a little bit more yesterday, UCLA's game against Texas A&M, and I'm seeing a lot of hot takes by some Twitter fans. I'm reading USC, not a playoff team anymore. I'm reading Sam Darnold, not a Heisman candidate. UCLA's Josh Rosen, the better quarterback in Los Angeles. And all I can say after reading this and reading the Twitter sphere's hot takes is this: don't overreact. It's only week 1. I mean, at one point, Ohio State was trailing Indiana pretty much for the entire first half. They won that game 49-21. Don't overreact. Wisconsin trailed Utah State by 10 at one point. Don't overreact. They won that game 59-10. Heck, through 3 quarters of UCLA's game against Texas A&M, people were calling for the head of head coach Jim Mora, saying Chip Kelly is Westwood bound. Don't overreact.
I mean, I think the athletic director was already cleaning out Jim Mora's office by the time the fourth quarter rolled around.
So, Jeff, I think the game against Western Michigan for the Trojans was closer than you and I expected. But what are your immediate takeaways from that game?
I think any person who is overreacting or worrying about the issues, which there are some, are overstated. This is a team that played, once again, let's not forget, this is a Western Michigan team. Obviously, they lost P.J. Fleck to Minnesota, but this is the same team that returned 8 of their starters on defense, and a team that went 13-1 and played in a Cotton Bowl, which is a New Year's Six game. This is not a cakewalk. This is not Rice. This is not Akron. This is not Western Kentucky. This was a good, well-coached football team. And once again, I talked to some players, and I had some insight from some of the guys on the film squad that said that the offense that came out onto the field on Saturday for Western Michigan was not even close to the offense that they prepared for in practice all week. I mean, it's an entirely different team than they planned for. It was 98 degrees, the hottest game at the Coliseum since 1998.
And I think it was even hotter.
I mean, I had to leave before halftime. I had to leave before halftime.
I spent $45 at the Coliseum strictly on bottled water.
I mean, it was brutal. And I mean, again, look, did Sam Darnold play his best game? No, he threw 2 interceptions, one of which was a nice play by the defender. The other was his fault. Did the receivers have a good game? No, the best player on the team was the best receiver on the team, was Deontay Burnett. Did USC play their best football game? No. Is a team supposed to play their best football at the very start of the year? No.
And I couldn't agree with you more, Jeff, on both fronts. Number one being that Western Michigan is certainly a better team than everyone else was anticipating. Sure, they lost their head coach, their starting quarterback, and their 3 best receivers, but that was a good football team. One of the student managers actually told me after the game, the players in the locker room said, wow, that was a good team. They gave us a run for our money. You said it earlier, we didn't play our prettiest football. There were drop passes. Not. There were missed tackles. But at the end of the day, like you said, let's put it in perspective. Jeff, where were we after week 1 last year? Alabama, 52-3 thumping.
52-6.
52-6, I'm sorry.
Let's give us just a little more credit.
So week 1 year later, might not have been the prettiest game, but I'm very content.
I'm content with it, too. Again, and any player is going to tell you, at the end of the day, a win is a win. You're looking at a team that's 1-0, and that's fine. And again, I think this is a Western Michigan team that very well should have been ranked to start the season. I think they will be ranked by season's end.
I don't know if the strength of schedule is there, that they're going to get the opportunity to be ranked.
I think they might run the table in the MAC again, given that it is the MAC. But that's not a bad football team. You lose your best player in Corey Davis. I know, I understand that. This was a game that is not going to be like any other game the team plays. Again, you can't use heat or weather as an excuse because the other team's playing in it. But it's these are factors that the team is not used to, and I still am on that fact that Western Michigan was a lot better than most of the experts predicted them to be.
Totally agree. And I'm going to tell you, one of the criticisms about the game that's kind of bothering me is that, even though USC did win the game by 18 points, it's a little bit misdeceiving. That's what some people are, sorry, not misdeceiving, deceiving. Because, again, USC tied 28-28 through the end of the third quarter, pretty much pulling away in the fourth quarter. But here's the deal. Elite football programs and elite teams pull away when it matters most.
Absolutely.
Elite teams pull away in those high-pressure crunch time scenarios, and we saw that this Saturday. So, again, you and I are both happy. That being said, you and I both agree, we said earlier, it was not USC's prettiest football.
Absolutely not.
So let's dissect that game. What 1, 2, or couple points does USC significantly need to address heading into next week at Stanford?
I mean, it's obviously the run defense.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's something that's very abundantly clear that the run defense needs to be adjusted. And the team played a 2-4-5. They had 6 men consistently in the box throughout the entire game, and that team was just running all over them. Part of me thinks this. I think they're going to run a 2-5-4 against Stanford just because Bryce Love showed how good he is, and I don't think Kellen Chris is that good. I really don't. I don't think he has threats at receiver. I think Bryce Love is obviously the best offensive player on that team, and you need to stack the box with 7 men against an offensive lineman that's very disciplined and very good. I don't know if we did that. Maybe Clancy Pendergast says this. They're going confident in this game. Why show Stanford, who has a week to prepare for USC, why show Stanford anything? Why? I see the other thing is this. I'd like to see more playing time from guys like Michael Pittman, who is hurt, but more so Velus Jones, Tyler Vaughns, Josh Imatorbhebhe, Jody Lewis.
So let's start with the defense, because I'd agree with you. The defense was not great, giving up 31 points to Western Michigan. Certainly not ideal, but this is going to be another one of those instances where I say don't overreact. The first half was not good.
No, it was bad.
But let me remind you, we were without Cam Smith, who is arguably our best defensive player, playing in arguably the most important defensive position.
I don't think it's arguable. By the way,
no,
I think he is the best defensive player.
Clearly, his absence played a big factor into the USC defense because in the second half, the USC defense only surrendered 1 touchdown. And also in the second half, they only surrendered about 100 yards compared to about 160 in the first half. So a big difference between the first half for the USC defense and the second half. But look, the defense has to be better heading into Stanford. But again, I'm saying don't overreact.
Oh, absolutely.
Now let's transition to the offense.
Well, I want to say this really quick. A player who really stepped up, and I really enjoyed watching that entire game, was Marvell Tell. He obviously had the pick 6, but he had 8 tackles. He was a ball hawk. I said it at the beginning. I think this is a kid who is going to end up being one of the top safeties in the country by year's end. He really, really impressed, and he put the team on his shoulders on Saturday. Excuse me.
By the way, I don't think I realized how big physically he is. He really has a presence.
He's a
presence.
Tall. I was at Salute to Troy, and I walked next to him. He's a big individual. He's a big kid.
Yeah, no, he definitely had a big impact in last week's game, most notably being that pick 6 return for a touchdown, setting up Jake Olson, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, a little bit later in the show. But I want to put some of the blame for this past Saturday on the coaches. And you touched on it. It was Clancy Pendergast's 2-5-4 defense. While they are stacking the box, only putting 2 guys.
2-4-5. They have 6 in the box.
And actually, I think they were playing 5 back. They were playing a nickel.
Were they? Okay.
They were playing a nickel defense.
I thought it was I thought they were playing a 2-4-5.
I didn't like how Clancy Pendergast was refusing to change up the strategy throughout the game, because clearly the nickel defense was not effective against the rush game of Western Michigan. Probably would have liked to see Pendergast make the adjustments. But I want to put Helton on the hot seat for a second, and here's why. Last season, you and I could not understand why Sam Darnold was not starting Week 1 against Alabama. And instead, Clay Helton gave Max Brown 3 games. 3 games. Utah was the first time Sam Darnold gave him 3 whole games before making an adjustment. I think we're seeing Clay Helton's overly conservative personnel decisions once again this season.
I don't know if it's overly conservative. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I think it's a matter of almost this deep-seated moral code to play the guys who have been there for so long and have done all these things.
But that's exactly the
and Jalen Green. Here's the thing: Jalen Green. I'm a Jalen Green fan. I think Stephen Mitchell should be subbed in and out. So, to put it lightly.
So first off, I think you were, if anything, you were supporting my argument because I think in a lot of ways Clay Helton is old school. But look, last season, word got out that out of the locker room, people were shocked that Darnold wasn't starting on day one. People, if you had eyes at fall camp last season, it was pretty much a consensus that Sam Darnold was a better quarterback than Max Brown. And I think this season, it's kind of the same thing with the wide receiver core. You just said, should Stephen Mitchell be starting? I don't know. Should Jalen Green be starting? I don't know. But again, Helton giving a lot of the key playing groups, giving those decisions to veteran returning players. Now, look, it's one thing if those guys are starting, but not only were these guys starting, the other guys weren't even getting playing time. Did we even see Josh Imatorbhebhe on the field much? Not really. Tyler Vaughn's one catch. Velus Jones, I don't even know if he saw the light of day. We have such a talented receiving core, a deep receiving core that once Jalen Green, Burnett, and Mitchell, well, not Burnett, but especially Jalen Green and Mitchell were struggling, I question the fact that Helton didn't shake things up.
I agree. And I'll say this, in regards to Deontay Burnett and the entire receiving core in general, I was happy with Deontay Burnett's performance as we see an unbelievable catch in that Tennessee game. I'm a little disappointed, however, that it was Deontay Burnett who stepped up. Not that I'm saying I'm mad that it's Deontay Burnett, because I think he's a great receiver. I think he's very talented. But I wish another receiver stepped up and said, hey, I can be a target as well. There was seemingly no separation between them and an experienced secondary. And I agree. There was no movement in the receiving core. The only substitutions we really saw was from the running back core, which we'll get to in a minute. I agree. I also believe on the defensive side of the ball, they were a little conservative on who they played. But I want to say this: the special
front
teams.
Seven's another example. Yeah. Why was Marlon Tuipulotu not getting enough snaps? Look, this is the number one recruited defensive tackle in the nation. Yet he only played about 10, I don't even know if he played 10 snaps the entire game. Again, Clay Helton leaning on the veteran guys, and it's understandable.
Oh, absolutely.
But you have to make adjustments during the game.
Part of me thinks there's a potential that this was a plan to again. This is the game that everyone has circled on their calendar this Saturday. Stanford USC is the tell of how good this team is. If USC goes out there and the Trojans win 42-14, I'm walking out of the Coliseum and I'm texting you immediately saying, "Wow, we're really good." If we go out there and we lay an egg and we lose 31-20, 31-21, I'm going to be like, "Ugh." This is the tell game. So my thought is a potential that Clancy and Clay and the coaching staff, and this is not likely, did not want to show Stanford everything they had, which, I mean, I don't know how likely it is, but it's something that is very feasible.
I'm going to counter you. And look, to a degree,
why show everything against a Western Michigan team that you're far more talented? You have much more talent. You're going to win based on pure talent.
It was show something. Some of these guys barely stepped on the field throughout the game, and if anything, against a lesser opponent in Western Michigan, who we both said that they were certainly a good quality opponent, but they're not going to be quite like Stanford. You would have thought that Helton and Pendergrass would have sprinkled some of these guys in, get them at least a little bit comfortable, because if anything, what we saw was Darnold doesn't have the trust of a lot of these receivers. I mean, Deontay Burnett catching 7 passes for 142 yards. That was about half of Darnold's total for the entire game. Listen to this, Jeff. There were only 2 receivers that caught more than 1 pass in that game from the receiving core. 2 receivers.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see Helton sprinkle in Tyler Vaughn's, put in Velus Jones, put in Michael Pittman. It was pretty much exclusively a combination of Green, Burnett, and Mitchell in the receiving core. And
not even Green. Like Jalen Green on one catch for 11 yards.
One catch, but he was on the field almost the entire game.
And I think, there was a lack of separation between the players. And then, look, we're overreacting just a little bit. The theme of the day is don't overreact. We're going to see what happens in practice. I'll be there tomorrow. I'll be interested to see what the atmosphere is like. Let's not forget, this Western Michigan team is a lot better than a lot of people thought. But the highlight of the day, comes in the backfield, and that's from Ronald Jones and true freshman Stephen Carr. And my friend who films for the football team, Connor Fugman, was supposed to come on the show, but we had the technical difficulties that day, said that when it is all said and done and Stephen Carr is out of college, no one will be wearing the number 7 ever again for the USC Trojans. And I'm not going to say he's right away, but 7 carries, 69 yards, 2 touchdowns, and one of which on a 52-yard outbreak where he shook a linebacker out of his cleats at the line of scrimmage and took off.
So, Jeff, we talked about it was a tale of two halves for USC. Obviously, the second half looking a lot better for the Trojans than the first half, and the score showed that. I want to tell you a little bit about the play distribution between the two halves. First half, USC passed 21 times, ran the ball 13 times. FYI, in the first half, you know how many yards Ronald Jones was averaging? He was averaging 9.4 yards per carry. Again, 21 pass plays to 13 rush plays. In the second half, 12 pass plays to 21 rush plays. And what was the difference? We saw 2 offensive touchdowns in the first half, 4 offensive scores in the second half. So I think that really begs the question. Despite the fact that we have Sam Darnold under helm, a Heisman candidate quarterback, is USC going to be a rush first team this season?
It's dependent.
Or should they be a rush first team this season?
And this is what I texted you today. This is what I wanted to talk about. And I don't think it's going to happen, but the unlikely scenario that Sam just doesn't, what if Sam Darnold just doesn't have the weapons that he needs to have in order to be the caliber quarterback that the majority of the country is expecting? Can we rely on Ronald Jones, Stephen Carr, Veve Malapai to step up? And I guess going back to your question, I think at a certain point, yes. What I saw from Ronald Jones, who had 18 carries, 159 yards, and 3 touchdowns, he was running with a sense of purpose. He was running hard. It was something I hadn't seen from Rojo in the first 2 years of him being here. He was breaking tackles. He added 17 pounds of muscle over the offseason. He looked bigger. He looked faster. And again, he ran the ball hard and hit the hole hard. I think if we have to be a run-first offense, we're in the good position to be a run-first offense.
And I was kind of begging the question a little bit. I don't think we will be a run-first team.
No, I don't think we will either.
We need to be a balanced team. Here was one of my biggest criticisms of the game against Western Michigan. It wasn't so much the play calling and that the first half was much more pass dominant than the second half. It was some of the decision making of Darnold. I love the fact that occasionally Darnold's a guy that likes to take chances, but the one thing I think we need to see improvement on in game 2 is his decision making. You have to understand that, second and 4 at your own 30-yard line, you don't need to be throwing a 40-yard pass to Deontay Burnett. Understanding the scenario. Again, we're the more talented team. We're the faster team. We're the more athletic team.
No, I agree. I'm not gonna necessarily go off and say what Sam Darnold did last game is what he did the entire year last year, and it worked. And I'm not gonna say that he shouldn't go out and do it again, but teams are going to be expecting it a little more as his unpredictability, so to speak. I would say Sam is going to go.
It wasn't a good performance for Darnold, right? No passing touchdowns.
I wouldn't say it was a bad.
2 interceptions.
I wouldn't say it was a bad performance. I wouldn't say obviously it's his best. He threw for 289 yards. He had 10 incompletions. He went 23 for 33, a QBR of 71. Any other game, that's fine. Again, a game like this against Western Michigan, a team that we're clearly more talented than, that's fine. He can't do that against a Stanford or even a Washington State or a Notre Dame or a UCLA.
And also, let's point out that those 2 picks, both of them went off hands of our own wide receivers.
Yes, there were lots of drop passes. The receivers didn't play their best game. But I'll say this. I was impressed by the offensive line. I was.
Sure, especially in the running game.
I was impressed by the offensive line. And I think this entire feel of this game felt like how the weather felt, just awful. And not that the team played awful, they didn't play their best, but this whole feeling of just like grogginess and I don't want to be here, no one else wants to be here. It almost seemed as if the players didn't want to be here because it was 98 degrees.
I don't know about that.
Obviously, they wanted to be there. That's not what. It just had this feel of it, like a Thursday night football game where it's like, oh, this is there's a football game on right now. That's how I felt. I expect a lot more
disagree.
energy.
Look, like you said, it was a triple-digit Heat game. You know, it was actually, I don't know if you knew this, it was the lowest attended USC home opener since 2001, drawing only 61,000 fans.
I think we'll see a sellout this Saturday.
I'd hope so.
I think we'll see a sellout this Saturday.
I want to bring up one more takeaway from this past game, and it was something that I wasn't expecting. One of the things, or one of the ways people have been describing this USC team is the talent is elite and the talent is deep. So one of the things that I wasn't expecting coming into this game is we'd miss some of the key pieces that from last season. No Juju Smith at the receiving core, right? No Darius Rogers. No Adoree Jackson at corner and special teams, right? And
Jack Jones.
I think what kind of surprised me was, man, some of these things that were advantageous or one of our strengths in the previous season has now become a liability this season. Look, I'm not going to overact with the receiving core. We both agree
I don't
on that.
think so either.
We're too talented. Maybe so the personnel shakes up. But I will tell you one area that really, really concerned me, and that was the special teams.
Yeah, it was bad.
Everywhere. Every single aspect of the
kickoff
special
return
teams.
for a touchdown let up. Jack Jones caught the ball and kicked the knee. I mean,
the kneel, what was the fair catch that I couldn't explain? We got a 28-28 Tennessee Georgia Tech game with 3 seconds left.
Georgia Tech kicking a 36-yarder. Does Butch Jones get fired if they lose this game? You know the Board of Regents are probably going to meet tomorrow morning at some local coffee shop in Knoxville.
Don't overreact. Anyway. But again, you're looking at the special teams, which was something with Adoree Jackson we took so much for granted. This was a guy who every single time he touched the ball on a punter kickoff return, and he had the opportunity to turn it into a touchdown.
Yep.
This season, so far, again, I don't want to overreact, but it seems like a liability. Marshall Jerrington was in studio last week, and he was telling me the special teams was going to be one of the points of emphasis for this Trojans team, something that Clay Helton was really focusing on, something that he believed would be a strength for this team. Interesting question, Jeffrey. Would you like to see Stephen Carr returning kicks and punts this season?
Yeah, I would. I really would. Jane Harris had a nice return. I had a nice punt return. Jane did. I was surprised to see that it was Jane returning punts. He just didn't, to me personally, seem like the guy who fits that mold.
Not explosive.
Not explosive. I think Stephen Carr would be great. I think Jack Jones needs to figure it out on the defensive side of the ball before he can even worry about returning kicks. And he needs to worry about returning and not kneeling the ball on the 10-yard line. I'd like to see Stephen Carr. I'd even like to see Velus Jones, who runs about a 4.3.
And both those guys, by the way, are listed number one on the depth chart for kick returners.
They're very fast. Quick question before we take a break. AP poll comes out tomorrow. I expect us to drop to 5 or 6. You think we stay at 4?
I think we stay at 4 just because Florida State's clearly going to drop, and I think the team that jumps us is Clemson. No one else, in my opinion, is going to jump us this week.
Nope.
And the reason I don't think we're going to move is people know this Stanford game is going to be tell-all, right?
Okay.
But I agree. Let's go to break. When we come back, we will talk next week against Stanford. You and I both saying arguably the biggest game of the season.
Biggest game of the year.
You are listening to In the Trenches on KXC.org or on the airways at 1560 AM. It's Monday evening. I'm Garrett. With me is Jeff Dubrov. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back again. You are listening to In the Trenches. I'm Garrett Schwartz. With me is Jeffrey Dubrov. It's Monday evening. We got class again tomorrow. I hope everyone enjoyed their long weekend.
I have one class tomorrow. I have 4 classes in the next 48 hours. It's unbelievable.
That is unbelievable. So we spent the first part of the show kind of talking about Western Michigan, points of concern for the Trojans through week 1. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Stanford. Ranked number 14 last week. I'm sure they're going to jump up at least a few spots, beating Rice 62-7. The line opened up for the USC-Stanford game. USC coming out at 6 points favorites. The line has since shifted to USC minus 6.5. Now, look, Jeffrey, I know we said don't overreact. USC struggles in that first game. Things that could definitely be fixed. I think we're going to see some personnel changes in the second game. Yet 6.5 seems like a lot to me.
6.5 at home seems very fair to me.
Let me remind you.
I think Vegas knows something we don't know.
Last season, USC came out as 6.5 point favorites, again on the road to Stanford, and lost that game by 17 points.
Yeah, that's different when look at the personnel that was running your offense.
All right, so if we have to bet today, 6.5 points, are you taking the cover for USC or are you taking Stanford?
It's so tough because I've predicted 42-14 against Stanford the last 2 years.
Wow.
Last 2 years. Have been wrong both times.
So 3, 2, 1.
I want to say yes, we'll cover.
Why?
I really, really think that the team just did not show us everything on Saturday. I'm going to stick with that. The weather's going to be fine. It's going to be a night game. This is a game that I listened to your boy Colin Coward said that when he went to practice and talked to some people, that's the game the coaches said to him. One of the coaches, he didn't name a name, one of the coaches said to him, this is the game we have circled, not Texas, not Cal.
Well, certainly not Texas after this past weekend.
Yeah. Stanford is the game they have circled, and they're going to come out with intensity. We've lost to Stanford now 2 years in a row.
There's a 3-game win streak, by the way, for Stanford, if you include the Pac-12 championship game.
Okay. Regular season, then, I guess. I completely forgot about that game. I'm really not sold on Stanford.
Why?
I'm not sold on...
I am.
I'm not sold completely yet.
Okay,
I really am not.
This is a team without Christian McCaffrey. So, immediately, even though I'm a huge Bryce Love fan, it's automatically a downgrade at the running back position compared to McCaffrey. But look, I'm going to disagree with you. I don't think we're going to cover this game. I think it's going to be a total shootout. The reason being that, look, USC's rush defense was not strong in Game 1. Will it be better? Absolutely. But the point being, again, Stanford has Bryce Love. This is a better rushing team than we saw against Western Michigan. I think the rushing defense is still going to be a cause for concern for the Trojans. I also think offensively for the Trojans, we're going to see a lot more things click. I think the running game is going to keep up for the Trojans. I think we're going to continue to see Ronald Jones. We're going to see increased production from Stephen Carr. And I think there's going to be some adjustments made of the receiving core, where especially among the guys that Darnold trusts more than we saw in that first game.
Rice is not a team that strikes me as Rice is a cupcake. Rice is a cupcake, and I'm not going to say that Bryce Love is not a good player. Bryce Love had a phenomenal game. I'm not sold on Kellen Chris. I really am not. That was his first career start against Rice. In Australia, he's about to go out and he's about to play a team in the Coliseum that is hungry for a win. And after everyone's been talking, all they're going to hear all week is, Texas, or excuse me, oh no, you said Texas, I thought Texas. All they've been hearing all week is going to be from the media is, USC's overrated. USC's not that good. Their quarterback's not that good. They're not a championship contender.
Jeff, this isn't about us. This is about Stanford.
I know, and I agree.
They're returning 8 offensive starters. Their defensive front 7 is going to be light years better than Western Michigan, and Western Michigan certainly did not give us an easy time on offense until very late in the game, right? Am I correct? Look, this Stanford team, the last 3 times we've played Stanford, they have rushed for at least 195 yards. And again, I know that was led by Christian McCaffrey. But the bottom line being, week 1 against Western Michigan, the USC rush defense was struggling. Week 2, I'm sure it'll be better. But again, I'm not going to come out here and say, man, we're going to shut down Bryce Love. We're going to shut down the Stanford rushing attack. Stanford last season was tied for 83rd in scoring offense. 83rd in scoring offense. They're returning 8 offensive starters. You gotta believe that's going to be something that's going to be better for this coming game. I want to talk. We're not going to cover.
I want to talk about the Rice team though. That Stanford played. This is a Rice team that went 3-9 last year. This is the definition of a cupcake, and I'm not sold until I see them play. And what I guess you can go back and say that Stanford's going to have a week to prepare for us. That's fine.
And better rested than us.
I think Bryce Love, debatable though. Better rested. You're playing.
We were fighting the end of that last game.
I'm not sold yet. I think we cover. I think we win this game by 10. I really do have faith in this team that the adjustments will be made. I think Clancy Pendergast's defense. I mean, Keller Chris, he went 250 yards, 3 yards, 2 touchdowns versus Rice.
All right.
I mean, they're returning a lot of guys.
Jeff says USC covers. I say USC wins, but we don't cover. I think this is a good segue into talking about our predictions on the season. Jeff and I both made our predictions before week 1. However, this is our first time in studio since the season started, so we're going to talk about our predictions. Jeff came out and said USC is going to go 12-0 in the regular season. And how far in the postseason, Jeff?
Oh, gosh. So I originally thought that Florida State, I thought that the college football playoff was going to be just like, which I mean, this is a very cupcake, very mainstream prediction. I thought it was going to be Alabama, USC, Florida State, Ohio State in that order. I don't think it's going to be that anymore. I think we're going to play for the national championship game. I think Florida State, with the loss of DeAndre Francois, they're not making it anymore unless this Blackman kid is going to step up and be the true freshman hero. I was not impressed by Ohio State.
Don't overreact. Don't overreact.
I said this before that game anyway. I don't trust JT Barrett. I don't trust JT Barrett enough to go out and not throw 4 interceptions in a game against Iowa. And then they lose to Iowa, and then they have to play Penn State, and then they have to play Michigan. I'm not sold on Ohio State.
So I'm not going to.
So my prediction is 12-0, and I think, and it's going to be telling very after this game. I think again, if we can go out and we can control this game on Saturday, control the tempo, control the ball, play very aggressive physical football, and disciplined football. Because if we're not disciplined on Saturday, we're going to lose that football game. Because that's what Stanford has always done. They're disciplined. Rarely do they commit penalties. They're hard-nosed. Stanford is blue-collar football. They're hard-nosed, and they're disciplined. If we go out and we control the game and we win the game in a very convincing fashion, I think we will run the table.
So you think we're going to win this game?
Yes, I do.
All right. I'm not going to say if we're going to win the championship or not. I'm just going to say that I think we're going to be a playoff team. And let me backtrack. You say 12-0. I say 11-1. On paper, in my opinion, there is no one we should lose to this season. But at the end of the day, there is no escaping that this USC team does not have a bye week. I'm going to pick out the 2 games that I think we could potentially lose to. The biggest games to circle on the schedule. Stanford, obviously, is the obvious pick, but I'm not going to pick Stanford as one of them because, again, I think we're going to beat Stanford. Washington State, I think, is a team to be really worried about. I love Mike Leach as a coach. We're playing at Washington State. It's going to be our 5th game of the season. Washington State's 5th home game in a row. I think they're going to be in a serious groove. Hopefully we are too. That's a reason for concern.
That's a game that concerns me. Mike Leach scares me no matter what when you're playing a team, an air raid offense like that. And look what Mike Leach did at Texas Tech. He turned them into a national title contender, although they never made it there. What worries me about the Washington State game is just I thought our secondary is. I mean, I was not impressed by Jack Jones. I was not impressed by Chris Hawkins. I was only impressed by Big E somewhat, but I was very impressed by Marvell Tell. I agree with that. I still think, and it's the old saying, good teams find ways to win football games. I really think at the end of the day we're more talented than those teams,
right,
and that's a clear statement.
Week 1, it's too tough to tell which matchups specifically are going to be bad. I'm kind of just going based off circumstance because the second game that I'm circling on the schedule is Notre Dame, a team that went 4-8 last year, unquestionably better this season, more talented, right? Definitely regrouped, but that's a team that is going to be our 8th straight game. We're playing at South Bend. We haven't seen Sam Darnold play in a cold weather game other than maybe Washington, but that was
a cold.
That was a cold.
No, I was there. That was a cold day.
Okay, that was a cold day.
I mean, that's our higher line. But
that's going to be our.
That's further north than Chicago.
So I say we lose one, but I also want to say I think this USC team can go 10-2 and still be a playoff team.
And what I think, I mean, I just can't get over the Larry Scott decision, the Pac-12 commissioner. How do you give your Rose Bowl champion 12 straight games?
Right, and it's a big deal. Although the way Clay Helton views it is, look,
if we go out and we do our job,
10-2, we win our division in the Pac-12. We get our bye week before playing most likely Washington in the Pac-12 championship. And by the way, that is why I think USC can be a 2-loss team and still make the playoff, because I think I'm pretty convinced we're going to win the division. Nobody really scares me, despite what we saw from UCLA this past weekend.
I was at that game. What I saw from UCLA is get torched for over 400 yards on the ground. We'll talk about that game in a little bit.
Right, so if we can win the division and play Washington in the Pac-12 championship, we're going to the playoff, in my opinion. You know, it might get a little complicated what happens if you have like a Penn State and a Wisconsin, or a Penn State and an Ohio State, where they take 2 teams from the Big 12, maybe. But I think we're a playoff team no matter what.
I agree. With that being said, we're going to take a quick break. We mentioned Josh Rosen and the UCLA Bruins. Normally we don't talk about them on the show, but we'll take a quick moment to talk about what was one of the most unbelievable football games in recent memory. I was there at the Rose Bowl. It was unbelievable. I stayed until the end. We'll have that. We'll have some NFL predictions and some other things up our sleeves when we return. You're listening to In the Trenches on KXSC.org, 1560 AM, or on your smartphone with the TuneIn Radio app. We will be right back. We are back on the air in the trenches. Jeffrey Dubroff, Garrett Schwartz with you. And real quickly, the UCLA-Texas A&M game last night was one to remember. Real quickly, if you didn't watch it or you turned it off, I don't blame you. It was 44-10 with 3 minutes left in the third quarter. Texas A&M was simply running away with it. They had 400 yards rushing on the ground. By the way, I watched that. That was no fluke. That defense is very, very bad for UCLA. Next thing you know, A&M stops running the ball. They start throwing the ball way too much. Josh Rosen turns it on, although 2 of his touchdowns should have been interceptions. One actually went through the hands of a safety right into the hands of his receiver. And they come all the way back from 34 down to win 45-44. And let me tell you why that is good for the USC Trojans. Josh Rosen, the chosen one, the chosen Rosen, went out and had a very good game, a spectacular game. His stat line, you might ask, he had 491 yards for 4 touchdowns, but his QBR was 58.8. No one's going to think about that. After leading his team back from down 34, the spotlight has gone from South Central to Westwood. The premier quarterback in Los Angeles is Josh Rosen. All of a sudden, not that the spotlight is off Sam Darnold, but the spotlight is now shining more so towards Josh Rosen. I think this is good for Sam Darnold. Let that go away and let Sam do him. Let the Trojans fly under the radar like they did last year until everyone was like, oh my God, this team won the Rose Bowl. I will say, though, that was a remarkable game. I think Kevin Sumlin coached unbelievably poorly.
So, yeah, people saying Kevin Sumlin on the hot seat. I think he's going to be around at least one more week. I don't think he's going to be gone this week. Week 1's a little too premature to be making any decisions. And, Jeff, I really do agree with you to some extent. No one's going to say that the spotlight is completely off Darnold. I mean, come on. He was the cover athlete for basically every major sport
and I agree.
But the fact that there's dialogue about UCLA and some of the tension gets taken off the Trojans is absolutely a good thing for USC.
The less attention, the better.
And my other big takeaway from this game is UCLA, it was remarkable what UCLA did, but they don't scare me.
No.
I mean, let's be real. Josh Rosen almost threw an interception in that final drive to win the game.
I mean, he should have thrown 3.
And the winning touchdown, if they spent more time reviewing it, there was some debate that maybe he bobbled the ball and it wasn't a touchdown at all. If UCLA loses that game, their season is over. Which again,
the coach might have been fired.
Perceive them as a threat.
No, and I don't either. Again, they gave up. I looked at my phone during that game. And with halfway through the third quarter, Texas A&M had 350 yards on the ground. 350 yards rushing before the end of the third quarter by a Texas A&M team that their run game is actually fairly decent. Christian Kirk's a good running back. Keith Ford's a good running back. But they're no Ronald Jones or Stephen Carr. What's Ronald Jones and Stephen Carr going to do with them? What's the experienced Sam Darnold, who's quick on his feet, going to do to them?
At the end of the day,
that's a long way away, though.
UCLA's success is completely contingent on Josh Rosen, and I don't think their offensive line is talented enough to give him the time to make the plays that he needs to be. Sacked 3 times by Texas A&M under constant pressure.
But good, really quick. Good for Caleb Wilson, the tight end, had 200-plus yards.
By the way, it took him a half to figure out how to get him involved.
A former USC walk-on transferred to UCLA. Good for him, but they're not legit.
It's now time for a new segment of ours. It's the In the Trenches Weekly Obituaries. Now, through week 1 of college football, we have already seen the sudden proverbial death of many of our favorite college football programs, coaches, and players. So, Jeffrey, in our first segment of the In the Trenches Obituaries, I'd like to start off by wishing a rest in peace in the NFL to Zachary Banner's tenure with the Colts. Zach Banner, an offensive lineman for the Trojans, 4th-round pick by the Colts, was released as the Colts trimmed down to their 53-man roster. I hate to inform our audience that Zach has prematurely named his dog Colt after the team that drafted him. Now, look, I was happy to see that Zach was recently claimed by the Cleveland Browns today.
Cody Kessler, hey.
Rest in peace, Zach Banner and the Colts.
Moving on to college football. Rest in peace to Florida State's title chances and DeAndre Francois. He had the most passing yards of any true freshman quarterback last season. In the fourth quarter, under 6 minutes to go, they're down 24-7. He gets destroyed by an Alabama safety and tore his patellar tendon. For the second year in a row.
Rest in peace, Florida. I really don't understand.
I don't either. I talked to my dad about it. I don't understand it either. But in a serious note, we wish well. We send wishes and regards to DeAndre Francois. That's an injury that is very brutal. We hope he gets well soon. But that season's done, and an open playoff spot has just emerged.
Rest in peace to Chip Kelly's coaching career in Westwood. For 3 quarters of last week's matchup between UCLA and Texas A&M, people were ready to write in Chip Kelly to UCLA. But let me tell you, after UCLA's comeback, it seems like Jim Mora's job is safe for the time being. Kevin Sumlin of Texas A&M, maybe not so much.
No.
R.I.P. Chip Kelly to the Bruins.
R.I.P. to one that is, I guess, near and dear to my family's heart. R.I.P. to the Tom Herman hype train. Oh, yes, Texas, the 5-7 team that lost to Kansas last year. They bring in Tom Herman, the golden boy coach everyone wanted. Took Houston to 2 major bowl games, beat Florida State, beat Oklahoma. They go out and they lose to Maryland at home, 51-41. Not only that, they started out number 23. They had a punt return for a touchdown, a field goal blocked for a touchdown, and a pick 6. And they still lost. R.I.P. to Tom Herman and the hype train. And finally, rest in peace to the College Game Day crew's preliminary plans to come to Los Angeles. Nope, they will not be coming here for the USC-Texas game anymore.
Very sad, Jeffrey, that I don't think we are going to get to experience College Game Day at the Coliseum during our college tenure.
I thought we were going to have it for the Stanford game, but I forgot that Oklahoma's playing Ohio State. I could potentially see it for UCLA.
Yeah, and rest in peace to all the University of Texas fans who bought tickets for the USC game. Unfortunately, those tickets are non-refundable.
Sold out.
So you might as well come, enjoy the tailgate, enjoy the Saturday. It'll probably be a disastrous afternoon for you. But yes, that is our Week 1 obituaries. We are going to take another break, and we'll come back with some NFL. Again, you were listening to In the Trenches. I'm Garrett Schwartz. With me is Jeffrey Dubrov. NFL when we come back. Again, you are listening to In the Trenches. It is Monday evening. You're listening either on kxsc.org or on the airways at 1560 a.m. And we're going to introduce another new segment to our radio show. And it is, we don't have a fancy name for it, but it is our weekly NFL picks. Each week, Jeffrey and I are going to go through every single game in the NFL, pick our winners. We're going to keep tally. Here's the way it works. We're going to go through our first chunk of games, and finally, Jeffrey and I are going to finish off with our three, or actually, I think we'll just announce it as we go on, our double down game. Each of us have 3 double down games. If we pick a double down game winner correctly, that is worth 2 points. Every other game is worth 1 point. Again, we are keeping tally as the season goes on. So, Jeff, week 1, let's start it off. The Thursday night game this week. Chiefs-Patriots, you're taking?
Pats.
Yeah, clearly I'm taking the Patriots. The Patriots to their last 10 season openers, 9-1. Their only loss being 2014 to the Miami Dolphins. Okay, both taking New England. Jets, Bills. 2 catastrophic organizations in the AFC East. Jeff, who do you like, Bills or Jets? Oh, by the way, sorry, the Patriots were one of my double down teams.
Oh, really? That's a safe bet. Wow. Tennessee just won. Georgia Tech tried going for 2. After scoring in double overtime, it failed. Georgia Tech going to lose their first game, and Butch Jones' job is safe. But continuing, I'm going to take the Bills.
And I'm going to take the Bills, too. The Jets in full tank mode.
Yeah.
The only 2 chances I really think they're going to get to win throughout the season being the Jaguars and the Browns in weeks 4 and 5. Other than that, not looking good for the Jets or Sam Darnold. Steelers, Browns. Steelers. And this is also another one of my double down games. Not very bold. I'm going conservative week 1. We might have to talk over how we do this. But
No, you can do whatever you want. Yeah, I like to take chances.
I like to win. So.
All right.
Bucs, Dolphins.
I'm going to take the Bucs. It's Jay Cutler's debut as a Miami Dolphin. I think Jameis Winston may have the most dynamic receiving duo in the NFL with Deshaun Jackson and Mike Evans. I'm going with the Bucs.
I'm also taking the Bucs. I'm not too optimistic about this just because I think Jay Cutler and Adam Gase have a little bit more chemistry than people are expecting. Obviously, with their tenure in Denver, but yeah, I'm going Bucs. Raiders, Titans.
This is my double down game. I'm taking the Raiders.
Interesting.
Beast Mode's first game. I'm a big Derek Carr fan coming back from injury. Amari Cooper, I think, is going to have a big year. Michael Crabtree's great. Khalil Mack coming off of his Defensive Player of the Year season. I think the Raiders are going to be a very good team and maybe even a Super Bowl contender if that pesky Tom Brady can stay away.
And look, you mentioned Derek Carr returning from injury. Similarly with Tennessee, you have Marcus Mariota returning from injury. Last 10 games as their starter going 7-3. Tennessee adding a bunch of new weapons this season, most notably Corey Davis, their number 5 overall pick at receiver. I'm picking Tennessee. I think it's going to be a close one. I certainly wouldn't double down on it. But again, I'm a big Marcus Mariota fan. The balance between Mariota and Murray, DeMarco Murray, in my opinion, one of the most balanced offenses in the NFL. Eagles, Redskins.
I'm going to take the Eagles. I like what I see out of Carson Wentz. I think it's a very good team. I don't know how Kirk Cousins is going to feel with the absence of Deshaun Jackson. I don't know where he's going to see his big receiver threat. Pierre Garçon, maybe. Josh Norman, obviously a great cornerback for the Redskins. I'm going with the Eagles in a very, very close one on the road.
I am going with the Redskins just because I'm a big Kirk Cousins fan. Once again, cashing in on a franchise tag, a $23 million-ish deal. Look, the Eagles are good this season. A lot of people have the Eagles winning the division. I'm taking the home team in this one. Washington, led by Kirk Cousins, offensive attack. Jags, Texans.
This is a double-down game for me. I'm taking the Texans. I don't care who the starting quarterback is for the Texans. Tom Savage will get the job done. The Jaguars are an abysmal franchise. Blake Bortles.
Couldn't agree with you more. And I'd also like to say I'd like to think the tides are going to turn for the state of Texas sometime soon. Obviously, this past weekend in college football, Baylor, Texas A&M, and University of Texas not getting the job done. Hopefully, I believe Houston will get it done in the National Football League. Cardinals, Lions.
I'm going with the Cardinals. I'm a big fan of Bruce Arians as a head coach. I think Carson Palmer's a great quarterback. Larry Fitz in there. David Johnson, maybe the most dangerous player in all of the NFL. And then on the defensive side of the ball, you have Tyrann Mathieu. You have Patrick Peterson. That's a very good safety duo. I'm taking the Cardinals. I'm not sure. The absence of Megatron. Was Megatron there last year?
He was not there last year.
He was not there last year. I don't know why I thought that. Matt Stafford, I don't think he's going to get the job done. I am taking the Cardinals on the road.
Cardinals lines, I'm taking the home team. I'm taking Detroit. Look, Arizona is a team. We saw it last year. They're getting older. Carson Palmer, 37, I believe. Larry Fitzgerald, he's up there in age. I love David Johnson, but I love Matthew Stafford more. I'm taking Baby Fat and the Detroit Lions. Falcons, Bears.
I mean, we don't even need to go into discussion about this. Falcons.
Yep, I'm doubling down.
In a landslide.
I'm doubling down Falcons as well. Ravens, Bengals.
I'm going to take the Bengals.
Let's hear it.
Andy Dalton coming in. A.J. Green always a prominent threat. I'm a big Joe Mixon fan on the field. Not a big Joe Mixon fan off the field. I think Joe Mixon's going to be a very, very good rookie running back. Defense is always solid with Vontaze Burfict if he can finally figure out how to not play dirty. I'm taking the Bengals in this one. I just really am not sold on the Ravens ever.
Yeah, I like Baltimore more than you do. I'm a John Harbaugh fan. Mixon, I don't think we're going to get to see him too much in week one. I think over time as a rookie, he's going to be sprinkled in there more and more. But look, I think this is the year for Cincinnati where things just totally blow up. Look, a team that has not yet won a playoff game, this behind the core of Andy Dalton and Marvin Lewis.
Well, Marvin Lewis hasn't won a playoff game.
And neither has
This has got to be it, right?
No, I just think this is going to be a disastrous year. You and I disagree. All right, I take Baltimore. Jeff's taking Cincinnati. Colts, Rams.
I'm taking the Rams. Andrew Luck out, Scott Tolzien. I think Jared Goff has to be improved. If he's not, then he's done. Sammy Watkins making his debut. I'm a big fan of him. I think Gurley behind an older, more experienced offensive line now, getting a year under his belt after seeing it's not all fun and games. It's not that easy. Aaron Donald, great, and T.J. McDonald's a great safety as well. I'm taking the Rams at home in the Coliseum.
Scary enough, I think Scott Tolzien might be a better quarterback than Jared Goff at this point in their careers. I'm taking Indianapolis.
Interesting.
Seahawks, Packers. This is a good one.
I'm taking the Packers at home. Aaron Rodgers, Jordy Nelson back from injury. I think this is going to be an easy win for the Packers. See how Ty Montgomery does at running back.
I don't want to say an easy game. It's really hard to bet against the Packers and Aaron Rodgers at Lambeau Field. I think the defensive front seven from Seattle is going to be vicious, but unfortunately for Seattle, they're playing against the best quarterback in the game. Yeah, that's right. It's Aaron Rodgers, not Tom Brady. I'm taking the Packers along with Jeff.
I'm not even going to get into
Panthers,
that one.
Niners. I think we can do this one quickly.
Panthers.
Carolina.
Although watch out for Reuben Foster. I'm excited to see Reuben Foster on the field. I think he's the biggest steal in the draft.
Giants, Cowboys.
I'm taking the Cowboys if Zeke plays. If Zeke we're supposed to know by 2 o'clock tomorrow if his suspension is going to be overturned, which I think it might be. I'm taking the Cowboys.
And I'm taking,
that is an asterisk next to it.
So I'm taking the Giants, assuming Zeke does not play, because no Zeke, no problem. I think Dak Prescott is really, really going to struggle without him on the field. Defenses are going to, they're no longer putting 8 guys in the box to prepare for Zeke, right? He's going to see different formations. Much tougher time for Dak in his sophomore year. I'm taking Big Blue. Saints, Vikings.
This is a double down game for me. I'm taking the Vikings at home. I think Dalvin Cook. Here's my bold prediction. I think Dalvin Cook's going to run for over 100 yards. I really think Dalvin Cook is going to be the most explosive rookie running back in this class. Sam Bradford still has threats, and Stephon Diggs. I like Minnesota. I like Minnesota. Kyle Rudolph there too.
I like Dalvin Cook, too. I've never been a big Sam Bradford fan. I'm taking New Orleans, and I'm calling this the Adrian Peterson revenge game. You say Dalvin Cook is rushing for over 100 yards. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Adrian Peterson's back. I say AP is going for over 100 yards. He's angry. He's playing against his former team. I think AP puts the NOLA Saints on his shoulders for the dub. Chargers, Broncos.
Chargers, Keenan Allen back. Broncos offense is really just horrendous.
I was kind of surprised that you and I both picked the Chargers. Broncos favored by more than a field goal in this game. Chargers are on the road. I'm taking Los Angeles as well. The LA Chargers in their first game under their new name. You brought up Keenan Allen. I think he's back. I think Melvin Gordon is due for. He was good last year, but he's going to have an even better year this year. We're going to move on, though. We got 5 minutes left. It is time for our playoff picks. Jeffrey and I are each going to go through our top 6 teams. First in the NFC, then the AFC. Jeff, you want to start it off?
My 6 playoff teams. I'm taking the Cardinals.
And the NFC.
Cardinals, Lions, Falcons, Giants, Tampa Bay, and Green Bay. That's right. Dallas isn't making the playoffs.
And your wild card teams being
Tampa Bay and Green Bay.
Yeah, I think our 6 are pretty similar. You got Detroit in there. I do not. I got Packers winning the NFC North and Seattle winning the NFC West. Those are the 2 teams getting a bye. Then number 3, I'm putting the Giants winning the NFC East. Again, I'm tying this a lot to Zeke not playing in the majority of the season. In addition to the fact that I think there's a lot of hype around Philadelphia. Look, Wentz is going to be better. Is it going to be much better? I don't know. I love the addition of Brandon Marshall to the Giants offense. I got Tampa Bay at number 4 winning the NFC South, hopping on that Hard Knocks Jameis Winston train. Atlanta at 5. Not winning the division, but I do think last year's NFC champs will be back in the playoffs again. And number 6, I am putting Dallas in there because, again, I just think their team in the trenches, defensive and offensive line, too strong.
AFC. Patriots going to win the East easy. I think the Raiders take the West easy. I think the Steelers take the North in a very convincing fashion. We both agree that the Titans are going to take the South, and we differentiate in our wild card teams. I'm taking Cincinnati, and I think Houston. I think Deshaun Watson will be the starter. I think Tom Savage starts the year off 1-3, and I think Deshaun Watson leads that team to a playoff berth.
Yeah, and I'm with you in the top 2. I got New England winning the AFC East. I got the Raiders winning the AFC West. Here's where we're different. I got the Ravens winning the AFC North, and I'll tell you why. Look, Pittsburgh is a good team. I have them at number 6, one of my wild card teams. But whenever there's a dialogue or a conversation about your starting quarterback, your leader, the guy, representing the franchise that he wants to retire, that concerns me a little bit, And at the end of the day, especially if Pittsburgh gets off to a slow start, that's going to be a cloud constantly looming over the Pittsburgh Steelers throughout the season. I do like Baltimore, so I'm taking Baltimore there. Number 4, I got the Titans in the AFC South, assuming Marcus Mariota can make it through a whole season healthy. Kansas City at number 5. I think, by the way, it's going to be really interesting to see if Alex, similar to his situation in San Francisco where Alex Smith lost the job to Colin Kaepernick, will Alex Smith over time lose the starting job to, who's the other guy? Patrick Mahomes. And finally, Pittsburgh at 6. All right, Super Bowl picks, Jeff.
I'm going with the Patriots and the New York Giants. I think Eli Manning finally has I think he has the best 3 receiving trio with Sterling Shepard, Brandon Marshall, and Odell Beckham. I'm taking the Giants coming out of the NFC.
Yeah, I'm also taking New England. It's so hard to pick against the Patriots. I hate them. I really do, but they're just the best team by far in the NFL right now. And with regard to the NFC, I am going to take Green Bay. Look, I am a Giants fan. I'm not naive, though. Eli's getting older. He can't throw the long ball anymore. I don't know how much effect those receivers are going to have if Eli doesn't have fire on his throws, in addition to the fact that the offensive line, the biggest problem last season, was not addressed by the Giants. I'm taking Green Bay in the NFC. Behind the best player in the NFL, Aaron Rodgers. They also have a big time improved defense, Green Bay. I think that's not that talked about. We will see. So I got New England, Green Bay. Just got New England and the Giants. That is all for this week.
I guess we're going to see. I think Tom Brady's the best player in the league. I think he's the best player to ever live. 31-21 USC is going to beat Stanford this Saturday. Thank you for listening to In the Trenches. You want to make a quick prediction?
I'll make a quick bet. I think it's going to be very, very high scoring. I'm saying 44-41
Interesting. 31-21, that's my call. You're listening to In the Trenches on a beautiful Monday evening at KXSC.org, 1560 a.m. For Jeff Dubroff and Garrett Schwartz. Happy Labor Day. Have a great Monday evening. And get ready to go to work tomorrow. Happy Labor Day. Fight on.